Howdy, folks. Happy Monday. We have lots to talk about, a lot of news, a lot of rumors, a trade.
Something
Yep.
Before you get started, you have gone out of your way now to avoid wearing gray, and it's obvious. I do want to say that.
Yeah, screw you, everybody.
Oh, carry on.
Well, there's a festive mood in Buffalo, and it's not because it's a few days before Christmas. It is that because the Buffalo Bills have made the postseason for the second time in 3 years, but this time it's for real. It didn't depend on Andy Dalton throwing a touchdown with a couple seconds left to go in the fourth quarter. And I was at the World Junior. I think you hadn't gotten there yet. You were at the Winter Classic or something.
Yeah. There was that year I went to both.
But these Bada Bing says Mike owns only one shirt. No, I have a variety of colors. So there you go. There was a sale at Old Navy. But this was
something.
Yeah, this was for real. They earned it. They got into the playoffs on their own. They went to Pittsburgh. They went to Dallas and beat Dallas, which, it's not the greatest feat in the world because Dallas is a mediocre team. But they, and you can say, well, the Steelers didn't have Roethlisberger. They had Duck Hodges, who apparently, doesn't really know the fact that you don't talk trash about other teams when, like you're a third string quarterback, but anybody who plays football should know you don't talk.
Real first name Duck. That's the first reason.
It's Devlin Duck Hodges.
Yeah. I mean, if you have that nickname, don't start any trouble.
Or don't be a quarterback because throwing a duck is not exactly a good thing. But yeah, I guess he said something trashy about the Bills' defense or something disrespectful. And the Bills, I mean, their offense is challenged, but their defense is really good.
No question their offense is challenged, right? Like I saw the opening game live against the Jets, and that was one where, when Mosley came out, it became a different game. But early on, they were struggling offensively, even in that game. And They've done that a lot this year. And look, Josh Allen does need to hold on to the ball more. But other than that, they have a pretty good line and they have a very good defense. And those things are carrying through. They're not a great team, like you said, but they're a team that could win a playoff game.
Yeah, they have a young kid at running back, Singletary, who's had a really good year. And I almost think that this playoff making the playoffs and hopefully winning a game, it's going to serve as an advertisement for Buffalo in the sense they're like in the same spot that the Jets were in last year. They have like $85 million in cap space. So they can go out and hopefully, it'll be with more success than the Jets have had in terms because Le'Veon Bell hasn't really, I don't think it's his fault. I think the line has been terrible. So
no, it's not. But and actually, you could see where he still has the skills. He needs a couple of holes. Like just as an example, he's got the same move Adrian Peterson has.
Yeah.
But Peterson can still get open because that line is so much better on Washington than it is on the Jets. It's about the only thing that's really good on Washington. I did actually write about Devin Singletary for GoGTS.com earlier this year, and this is a guy this is good drafting by the Bills. I'll wash my mouth out with soap after, but it really is because it's not like he hid in college. He actually did really well. He had 33 touchdowns in his last year. I know he played in a lesser conference, and he played in a ridiculous bowl game in 2017, the Boca Raton Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, you want to just talk about, is that like a bunch of retirees in the stands? Like,
yeah, well, no, I mean, it's funny.
But he still did well, and he's fast, and I can't believe they were able to draft him where they did.
Well, it's funny because Collinsworth said something last night that I had never heard, and obviously, being in Buffalo, I'd heard a lot of stuff about Allen, that Allen didn't even know he was being scouted. I mean, come on. I mean, come on. That
every player knows that there's scouts there. Sometimes the coach will tell them, but most times they know. I can't tell you how many times, like with young hockey players, when I say, hey, there's a lot of scouts here, they'll be like, I know. And they know.
Yeah. Okay. So we both have pre-show stuff, and Ak will be joining us in a few minutes. You go first.
Okay. So the biggest thing I'm noticing, there was two things that affected my little personal life. So the first one was funny. today I noticed that somebody had placed something on like my door handle outside my house, and I looked at it, and there's a big sign outside of town right now that says, "Don't recycle your recyclables in a plastic bag. The plastic bags aren't recyclable." Big sign when you enter town, you can't miss it, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's a good idea. I guess people are getting stupid about it. So now they printed a piece of cardboard and put it on everybody's door handle for the same thing. And my thought was, now I have to recycle that. Why didn't you just put it on the app? And everybody would get it that way, besides the big sound. Now you've created trash. So that's one thing. That was dumb. The other thing was when you're watching something now, right, for television, this is the one year that e-tailers should have gotten a little smarter. I just tweeted about it. We know when Christmas is. The whole world knows when Christmas is. But Hanukkah runs from the 22nd to the 30th. And there's a lot of people that are buying Hanukkah gifts, and e-tailers never say it's going to get there in time for Hanukkah, but you have it literally until like the 29th or 30th, depending on, when you get that package, to get a gift. You can make a lot of money if you just mention both holidays, and they don't do it. And I'm telling you, they should, because they're losing money. I believe they're losing money.
Okay.
That's it. No thoughts on that?
No. I'm just observing what you're.
I mean, you have no opinion on this?
No, I don't.
Jesus. Go ahead.
See, this is the thing. It's like, in terms of like holidays, it's like the one advantage for us, Christians, is it's one day. It's not a range of 7 or 8 days.
Right.
But pretty much, and let me let Eck in here. Pretty much, based on the fact that anything that you order from, say, the 16th or 17th is not getting there on Christmas, because everybody is ordering stuff right now. And
that's my point.
What are we talking about here?
I'm saying e-tailers should be smart. And this year they're blowing a big opportunity, because Hanukkah runs from the 22nd to the 30th. They're all mentioning, well, you could get this still by Christmas, and you have an extra week for Hanukkah, and they could make a lot of money, and they're passing up on this opportunity by not mentioning it. Just to give you an example, how much money there is, $701 billion in Hanukkah sales. Just so you know.
Yeah, which then the NHL is, what, a $4 billion league? Think about that. It's just like crazy. I always think about that. I always think the NHL is $4 billion. So like everything else is.
But I'm just saying, and I used to be in retail, right? And we would get 2 rushes for this video game company I work for. There'd be a Hanukkah rush and a Christmas rush. They are totally avoiding it as far as in commercials and online, and it's a lot of lost revenue. Like if I were the CEO, I'd be like, we need to mention this, because there's another week of people potentially buying gifts out there. Yeah,
and as a family who celebrates both holidays in our house, we I know Hanukkah is like, you usually have like 5 or so gifts for your kids, and then you're like the last like couple nights you're scrambling, and so definitely it would be good to have like that later thing with that. There's definitely something to that.
Usually, it's funny.
I'm bad at the keeping surprises, so I can't keep the big gift to the end. I'm like, I gotta give it to them.
And that's the thing. We only did the 8 days stuff for a couple times in my life, but if you do it, it is better to keep the bigger one for the last day.
It's hard though, man. As a parent, because I'm just a kid too, and everything I got for the kids, I probably wanted myself. So I'm like,
day one, it's good to watch the disappointment.
Day
one's not going to be the best gift, right? So it's going to be like something like, oh, great, like a pair of socks.
I'm unable to do that though. My parents could do it. My parents would.
Grandma's knitted sweater with 3 arms in it.
Well, my parents for Christmas one year like totally tortured me. They had like this one thing they knew I wanted. This is the funny thing about it. So and there's also, everybody can kind of relate this, that you have like a place in your house that they hide gifts,
Yes.
and I would know where every kid knows where that is. So there's one thing I really wanted. It was this like multi-lane. It was the remember slot cars?
Oh yeah.
Big slot car guy. There was an eight track and where you could run 8 cars at the same time. These really wide tracks. It was really cool. And I wanted this really badly. And I knew we had it because I had seen it. I saw it in the hiding space, right? So Christmas comes along, and I open all my presents, and it's not there, And I'm like, okay. And then my birthday's in January, so I'm thinking, oh man, are they going to really hold this to my birthday? And I'm like, and my parents were so good at this. It was really funny. They just kept going, all right, let's have lunch now. We open our presents, let's have lunch now. I'm like, and I'm sitting there, and they're just dying because I'm looking like
they knew you were onto them.
No, but at this point they had me because I'm like, I saw this present in the house, but I don't.
Yeah, maybe they knew. Maybe they had intel.
I think they knew that I knew, and they were getting back at me for like looking.
No, they gave it to the neighbor's kid. That's what.
Right. So the day went on, and I went to lunch, and I had lunch, and then we all went to my cousin's house, like 20 miles away, and opened presents there. We went to that, and there was still no mention of the slack cars. And I'm not the kind of kid who's like, I didn't get what I want type kid. I'm just sad. So I'm like, I go there, I come back, and late at night, we're about ready to go to bed, and my parents are like, oh, you know what? Hold on, actually, did you go in the basement today yet? We go to the basement. The whole thing had been set up in the basement.
All right, I'll save my pre-show for tomorrow because it'll age well, and I don't want to. Okay. We're 15 minutes in. We basically want to talk. Okay, let's start the show. All
right, here we go. All right, it's the 16th of December. Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Monday, December 16th, 2019.
I'm Michael Lagello, and I am not one of the Bills fans who went to Prior Aviation at 2:00 in the morning to celebrate their playoff win.
Why would you do that?
I don't know. People went to where they land their plane at 2:00 in the morning. 1,000 people to celebrate that they made the playoffs.
Makes no sense. I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology, and I don't get Bills fans, but whatever.
I think that's awesome. I mean, and I'm Michael, and that's what we do this for. Which, if you're a fan, that's like great. I mean, that.
Yeah, but
come on, like every kid who went to that thing at 2 a.m. is gonna with every
kid. I didn't see many kids. It was a bunch of guys wearing Zuba pants.
Yeah, see.
I don't know. You're gonna remember? Why not? What the hell not? I mean, if you guys have suffered long enough up there, Mike, come on. I mean, it's worth it. It's worth something. Anyway, that's how I see it.
And you are?
And I'm what? Oh, I'm Eklund. I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to every Monday through Friday at this time or around here to speak to you about the comings and goings in the hockey world. And we might want to talk a little Taylor Hall this morning because
shocking.
Yeah, there's a lot going down, and this weekend was tracking it constantly. Couldn't get off the phone about it, and really have gotten to the point where I am absolutely sick of it. But we're going to continue to talk about it now with you guys because that's what we need to do. And then we're going to also get into Kovalchuk too. Kovalchuk is like vintage trade rumor. He's right at the top of the trade rumors thing. This could be the end of that line, so we got to say some homage to that. So yes, Taylor Hall. Very early in the year for a team to be scratching a player, like to get this call, like he's sitting out games, really did surprise me. That was one.
Really did surprise you? It didn't surprise me.
It did. I mean, it really because if you sit out a game and you're not traded, I mean, the only time I can ever justify sitting out a guy in this early in the season, we're not like 5 days before the trade deadline here. We're not New Jersey out of it completely yet. Here.
They're out of it.
They're out of it, but they're not. But it's different when you're like this many games back at the end of February. But this is you don't sit guys out right now unless you have a deal really close.
Well, and it's weird that you say that because I think the same thing. And I heard Darren Drager on Toronto radio this morning talk about Hall and the fact that they scratched him and said I think their next game is on Wednesday, and he basically said, well, if they're not getting offers that they think are good enough for Hall, then they might put him back in the lineup. I mean, you got to remember, they're scratching him because they don't want him to get hurt.
Right.
They're scratching him because he's an asset that they've decided that they're going to move. And I know that it came out, it's been out for a couple of weeks that the Devils will not allow teams to talk to Darren Ferris, Hall's agent. And I think the reason for that is because they know that he will not sign an extension.
No, the reason for that is the Devils are lying. And then I'm telling you flat out that they are letting teams talk to his agent.
Okay.
And it's like, I don't know who's reporting that. I guess
a lot of people are.
I know they are, but I know. And I want to, I'm telling you right now, as sure as God made green apples, that they are lying about that.
All right. Well, green apples aside, because I think they suck. Let's just say I said on another show, and then I've been saying it on this show for at least a week.
Wait a second.
I expected him to get
another show. Yeah,
right. There are other shows.
Hockey adultery.
But I am not shocked that they scratched him. If you had watched him play for the last 2 weeks,
well, that's true.
You weren't seeing a good Taylor Hall. That version that you were seeing was semi-lousy. And I think the Devils finally looked at it and said, we just need to trade him now. We're not going anywhere. He doesn't want to be here. Let's just make this happen. And so they started scratching. And you saw other teams started scratching players. The Panthers scratched, Heponiemi and Borgstrom.
Yeah.
Two really solid prospects. They scratched them both. So they, and that was when they were in the running. So none of this surprises me. I still think it gets done before the winter freeze because I really think he wants to be out of there, and I think they want him out of there.
Now that was the thing that
now we have to.
Yeah, that was the thing that Pierre LeBrun reported this morning was that Florida was thought to be one of the 3 or 4 really teams hot and heavy.
They were the from talking to people yesterday. They were the favorite yesterday.
Yeah, and
right.
Right.
Yeah,
right. And then when you see, I think it was Springfield, who's their AHL affiliate, scratch those 2 players, you think, okay, here you go. But now comes out that Florida is out of it, probably because, and LeBrun says because A, they can't get an indication of whether he'd be amenable to an extension, and B, they're paying what they think is a hefty price for what could be a pure rental. And
they talk to somebody and know that he's not going to extend there.
Right. And that's the problem here. If teams don't know, or if teams don't care that he's a rental, if they say they want him as a pure rental, then the cost that New Jersey can ask is probably what Ottawa got for Mark Stone, which is a good prospect, another prospect, and a second-round pick.
That's what they were getting anyhow. None of this has changed.
But Shiro apparently is asking for a package that's consistent with him being able to being a re-signed player or somebody who can.
Only there was a rumor website that had the package Shiro was asking for. Hey, wait a second. Somebody read about that just yesterday.
Yeah.
This is the package. Ready for this? Okay, this is the deal. I wrote yesterday. I wrote the 10 things that I know about the Taylor Hall situation right now.
Okay.
And I'm going to go through them really quickly, and the package is in here, Mike. So we'll get to that as part of this. I have talked to no less than 19 teams about this. So 19 to 31. That's a lot for anyone. That's a lot for me. But it's a lot for me to talk about one player. 19 teams. That's why I'm a little bored of this. There are at least 12 teams who have talked to New Jersey about this. So 12 of the 19 that I talked to have talked to New Jersey about this.
Okay.
I'm sure there's more than that because that's just an example of, there's probably 15 that have talked to. I'm going to get to everybody. There are 7 teams who appear to be most serious at this point. Of those 7 teams, I'm hearing 3 have talked about an extension. It's just maybe no one believes it. I would venture to at least say that but I think that at least 5 teams have talked about extension. I'm basing that on the fact that I've only talked to 19 teams. So I don't know. The 7 teams I've talked to are kind of in 3 tiers. The Panthers and the Coyotes are in the top tier. The second tier sort of Calgary and Colorado. And then there are 3 teams who are getting more serious by the moment with the Islanders, Canadians, and Predators. I know that people have the Blues. Other people have Vancouver, I think.
Edmonton, Vancouver.
I had Edmonton in there, but I took them out because my Edmonton source said that was no longer happening.
And there's been reports that Montreal's out.
Yeah, I've heard that Montreal's out too, but I go back and forth with Montreal on this. So there are 3 teams. Okay. The final thing I know about them is that New Jersey wants. This is what the asking price is for Hall with an extension signed. Okay, which would be New Jersey wants a first rounder, a current roster player, preferably on defense with experience, a goalie prospect, and a few other picks, or an A-level/B level prospect and a pick. Okay, so that's what we're at.
But that's the landslide.
Yeah.
Best case scenario.
Right. And see, the thing is, Ottawa did not know, or if they did know, their philosophy was completely off. Mm-hmm. That Stone was going to sign a deal with Vegas after the trade. Now they waited until the 11th hour.
That's not true, Mike, because this
that is what everybody is saying. They're saying that because the return they got for Stone was not equal to Stone's value. Now that was
because they knew that he would only sign with Vegas, and that it's kind of backwards. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying by that? Like I'm saying, they got that return because he made it clear that Vegas is the only team you should trade me to if you want to get anything, because that's the only place I'm going to go. And that's that. We didn't know that at the time, but
they could have traded him as a rental and got just as much. Who cares where he wants to go?
No, but
you trade him for where you get the most.
They knew that they could own. Basically, it wasn't just them that knew that someone was only going to Vegas too. I mean, that was apparently other teams. That rumor was out there, so everyone was terrified to talk to him. So Ottawa was stuck. They were sucked into one team,
right?
And And then they couldn't ask for much because but he signed an extension, like a day after he got there? It was like ridiculous.
The same day.
Right. So do you think that if anybody thinks that deal got done that quickly in that day, I mean, they talked ahead of time, and we're going to find out later that people talked to Hall ahead of time, and
Well, here's something that is definitely in favor of what you're saying, because Drager said this morning that Hall on the open market will be looking for $10.5 to $11 million a year. Okay, Taylor Hall is not Mitch Marner. Taylor Hall is not Jack Eichel. He's not Connor McDavid or Austin Matthews. He's a great player.
He's not next year though.
He's right, but he is not a $10.5 million player.
He's a 10, Mike. He won an MVP award, and he still.
Yeah, but he's got but
and he won an MVP award.
His injury issues, his age and his injury issues are killers.
If you put him with the right players, still, you're going to get a max year out of Taylor Hall.
The thing about Taylor Hall is he's incredibly marketable.
Yeah,
Taylor Hall has his personality and the way he goes about things. You put him in the right city, that's why Calgary is. Calgary realizes that this is a slam dunk. And at the end of the day, I think that it could come out that Calgary was the only team he was willing to go to the whole time, and he ends up there, and that's what we hear about. And then they sign an extension just like Stone did with Vegas. Florida, I'm not surprised because Florida has been recently very into the idea of making big splashes over the last several years, and he's injury prone too. But the other thing about Taylor Hall that people totally, completely respect, and this might sound weird, is that he loved playing in Edmonton. That people respect the concept that Taylor Hall was playing in a city where a lot of players don't want to play, and he loved it there. Now, granted, he's from Alberta; it's not that big of a stretch for him to play in Edmonton.
Calgary, yeah.
But but he loved it in Edmonton, and he was really pissed off when he got traded because he wanted to, he wants to win, and he liked that group of players. I don't think it's out of the question at all that he would go back to Edmonton if he could, but I don't think Edmonton can afford it. So because there's going to be they can't have 3 $10 million players, like that. They're just not going to be able to do that. So, but he would go back to Edmonton in a snap. I know he and Connor McDavid are still tight. I know Connor McDavid's been pushing for them to get him back in, but unless Connor's willing to do the Sidney Crosby thing with Malkin.
There were players that didn't like him in the end in that locker room that are probably still there too.
Yeah, but no one has the power that Connor McDavid has.
Draisaitl, we don't know what Draisaitl thinks of him.
Yeah, we don't know. It's true. But still, no one has the power of Connor McDavid there. I think that we're going to see, and Hall's a good guy, so you could definitely bring him back in the lineup now, and he would play hard and all that stuff.
And I'm not saying anything that you just said is
yeah, no, it's fine.
I'm just saying if you're looking at it from the point of view of an NHL general manager, he's 28 years old. He's had major injury problems throughout his career. When he's healthy, he's one of the best forwards in the league. But that's a factor with me in terms of a long-term deal, especially when he's going to be going 28 to 29, about length of term and about AAV. Now, let me say, a team like New Jersey doesn't have to really concern themselves with that because they're a cap floor team, so they can afford to pay him 10.5 or 11. But a team like Colorado or a team like Arizona, who doesn't have the cap space like they used to, I don't think they can afford to sign him for $10.5 or $11 million. Yeah. So
Arizona may be looking at it we're in second place now or first place, and and they might be saying, okay, the West is wide open for us, and this might do it, And if Arizona can get 2 or 3 playoff rounds out of it or something like that, then it becomes worth it to Arizona. Even just as a rental, or because you get that what 3 playoff rounds does for season ticket sales is just crazy. And then if they go really far and Hall actually loves it there and they win a Stanley Cup or something like that, then getting Hall back is still possible.
What would you rather pay, Mike? $7 million for Joe Pavelski or 10 for Taylor Hall?
Well, talking about a difference between a 36-year-old guy and Pavelski.
Because you're making Taylor Hall sound like a 36-year-old guy.
No, I'm just stating the facts.
The facts that are true of a lot of hockey players.
I know, but
a lot of hockey players that play rough and tumble hockey. I mean,
he had
Tavares got hurt plenty. Tavares has had
durability and injury issues in Edmonton because he put himself in dangerous situations. He goes to New Jersey.
Players you talk about, I know what you're saying, Mike.
He
but
wins a hard
players
trophy,
you're
and then he
talking
gets
about
hurt
in Toronto that got those contracts have injury issues as well. Like they've all Matthews has been hurt every year. Tavares,
and that should have been a factor in.
It wasn't.
It wasn't. That's what we're pointing out.
It's going to be a factor with Hall. When he's got 30 teams that can talk to him, they might say, I'm bringing up the injuries, and Hall might say, see ya. Like that's it.
Right.
We're talking
about the injuries. A lot of games in New Jersey. He hasn't missed that many games.
He missed half a season last year.
Yes, and then the first season he played a full season, and this season he's healthy enough to play a full season if you let him.
But Russ, we've both heard that this year he's been playing on the periphery. It's almost like
I think more of that has to do. I'm not saying it does, but it could have more to do with just the fact that he's just not happy in New Jersey, and that fact
and he doesn't want to get hurt because he knows he's coming up on a payday.
Right, but that doesn't mean he's injury prone yet.
Right, I'm not going to tag him that way.
It's possible. He does have injury issues. I'm not saying that doesn't come into factor, but I'm saying he might have enough bargaining power that it doesn't matter.
But honestly, I think the two teams that have the ability to put together the package that you talked about, one is St. Louis, because we've heard the name Vince Dunn being put out there. They have their first round pick, and if it's Vince Dunn, a first, and something like Clem Costin or something like that, that would probably be a package that would get done. But I don't think St. Louis has the cap space. They can't sign Alex Pietrangelo to an extension right now. So
they can if they lose Hall. If they lose Pietrangelo.
Yeah. That's true. Right. The other thing I want to talk about a little bit of anatomy of rumors, because it's worth mentioning sometimes, since this is what I do all the time, and I can put a little bit of like. So when someone comes out and reports, and I don't know if it was McKenzie or who it was that was reporting, they're not allowed to talk to teams, because if it was Bob, of course, I definitely put a ton of stock in everything McKenzie says, but even he would admit to you that things can change in a second.
Sure.
So like he might, it depends who you talk to. Like, so say I'm talking to a team that, doesn't really have anything to offer me, and I'm Ray Shero, and I'm going to be like, no, I'm not going to let you talk to Hall ahead of time, because if you talk to Hall ahead of time and it gets out what you're talking to Hall about, then that's going to be a problem. So I tend to think that when you hear that teams are saying you're not allowed to talk to Hall, like the rumors that you're not allowed to talk to Hall ahead of time are not coming out of New Jersey for sure. They're going to come out of teams who have been denied to talk to Hall ahead of time. Right. But that doesn't mean every team has been denied to talk to Hall ahead of time. That's what I'm trying to say. That's the important thing.
Okay.
Because that makes just a ton of sense,
So what I think you're right. I think Florida found out we can't extend them, so they're done. They pulled out. But I will say this about Florida.
If you find out you're not extending them, if you can't talk to them ahead of time, that's what's so funny about.
No, I get it. That's why I believe what you're saying and don't believe what's being reported. But I want to say this. This is why Florida is such a pretender as a franchise too, because this is the year where maybe if you did add him, you could do something, and they don't get it done.
Right. And they're going to lose Hoffman, because it doesn't seem that they have interest in re-signing him. So there's five something million that they open up in cap space. They've got Huberdeau and they've got Barkov locked up. They got Bobrovsky and Ekblad and Matheson, although they probably don't want Matheson locked up right now the way he's been playing and his being healthy scratch.
Remember what Dale Talon said, that he thought he was the next Duncan Keith. You remember him saying that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I know, and I didn't agree with it, and now they probably wish they didn't extend him.
But my point is that they've got a lot of long-term money locked up on 4 or 5 players, and that probably prevents them from locking up another guy on a long-term deal.
I'm not just saying locking them up. How about this? They need attendance. I think Hall would get them attendance.
Well, I think that's why they're talking to him.
Yeah, I don't think so, because
I do.
Tampa Bay at Florida last Tuesday, there were 6 people there. It was
there's no Taylor Hall there, is my point.
Taylor Hall's not going to move the ball.
Yes, he will. I think he will, because I think when they see Magic,
they'll have 8 people instead of 6.
No, he does move the ball as best you can. You can't is he gonna be instantly that they're sold out for the next 20 years? No, but
if they see him with Barkov temporarily, they will fill some seats.
Yeah, right? if he and Barkov start doing something spectacular and then have like a really good run, that changes things too.
And Alex in the chat is making the point that I've been trying to make regarding Hall, in terms of if New Jersey is denying, and this is again in your favor, if New Jersey is denying access to his agent to talk extension. That's denying the possibility of getting a big deal and getting a great return as opposed to getting an okay return. Because if he's a rental and people think he's a pure rental, they're going to offer what probably.
Yeah, that's true, but I think that they're denying extensions to people they know he won't extend to. I think what's happening is that's what's happening.
They're just trying to, right. I think what you're saying is, and they're trying to speed up negotiations here because they do want him out of there and don't want to scratch him every day. So I think you're right. I think they're eliminating the obvious or the pretenders, as we should.
But I think,
because if you give a team that, and this has happened before many times, maybe I got to find out if I can bring up the actual name, but I will at some point. But let's just say Russ Cohen was involved in a trade rumor, and a team talked about signing Russ Cohen, and Russ is like, "No, I'm not going to sign that with you.
That's anyone.
I'm not going to sign with you for anything." So that team goes out there and then just puts out there, "Yeah, Russ wants like $30 million a year," and Russ didn't say that to him. Russ said, "I'm not going to sign. I'm not going to sign there for anything." But the team that gets pissed off when they say that, and they put out a rumor, they float a rumor that he wants $20 million a year, $30 million a year. That gets out there, and now suddenly that kills New Jersey's market for signing and for getting signed. Other places where there are places where Hall would sign for maybe $10 million a year. Well, so when you look at it, that's why you got to be really careful about it.
I mean, I'll name the team. The team is LA, and I can't play with Jeff Carter.
Right. So there you go.
Just to finish this off, though, I think Shiro, in a way, has painted himself into a bit of a corner by scratching him, because now if he scratches him 2 games in a row, the holiday trade freeze is this Friday. If all of a sudden they play him on Wednesday, then he's basically telling everybody that this was sort of like a fake.
He's not going to play.
Right. I mean, but I'm saying that's why I'm saying I think he's going to get traded before the trade freeze. He's going to have to take the best offer that's being offered right now. Yeah, and if he doesn't, then I think he paints himself into a corner even more for February 24th, because it's sort of like Chicken Little. The sky is falling. Oh yeah, we're gonna trade Hall. Oh no, we're gonna pull him back now.
I also think, you know what's playing into this too, Mike? The interim coach. How difficult did it make it for him taking over, knowing that a guy like Taylor Hall wants out of there, and he's trying to put his best forward with this team. So I think they're trying to clear that up too. So like X said, could have some sort of chance this year.
So here's popped up on the board. Funky Zeta's question, because this is a question I got asked a ton and keep getting asked. And we've talked about this too. If he's this close to UFA, why would he sign an extension? This is well, there's a difference. There's a big difference between Tavares and him, and the reason being there is that the reason that we're seeing him scratch now and trade possibilities, and we didn't see that with Tavares last year, is because he has made it clear to New Jersey what he's doing, where Tavares did make it clear to the Islanders what he's doing. So this is very different. And yes, you could say he's this close to UFA. Why would he sign an extension?
Well, I mean, again, Tavares had a no-move clause, and he let the Islanders know at the beginning of the year he had no interest in waiving the no-move clause.
Right.
So if they wanted to trade him, they had to trade him before July the 1st. At that point, after that, they had no leverage.
Right. That's true.
That's why.
That's true, and that's where Hall's different, right? But that does. But if you're actually want to go to UFA and just want to focus on having the best year you can because you want to go to UFA on a strong season,
right? You
do what Tavares did, But if you actually are willing to get traded and then go to UFA, whether or not that means somebody's going to sign an extension or whatever, or or you're willing to get traded to a team that you want to go to now, because so much mentally.
That's what he wants out of New Jersey. That's the difference.
He wants out of New Jersey, but I also think he wants to go someplace very specific that he knows, and that we don't know.
And I also think that Shiro wants to get this done because they have 3 or 4 more players that they might trade. They're probably going to trade Sami Vatanen before the trade deadline. They'll probably want to trade Wayne Simmons and retain salary on him to get a return, because I'm sure there'll be playoff teams. It didn't work out for Nashville last year, and we know he's a fading player, but he's the type of player that playoff teams will probably want to add. I think there's a possibility. It's been out there that they're looking to shop Miles Wood, who's been a disappointment after he scored 19 goals. And this is me on a flyer here, so just bear with me for a second. I think by next year, PK Subban will be on another team.
See, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, because he's making $9 million, and that's not a factor for them, and retaining salary on him would not be a factor. The guy has 5 points.
Yeah, I get it. I think they're going to say to him, listen, we need more out of you, and I think you'll see a different PK Subban next year. I think that's what's going to happen. They can't afford to just summarily trade PK Subban. It's not like they have this great depth on the blue line.
Well, it depends if they get a defenseman in the deal for Hall.
Yeah, but it still won't be anywhere near what PK could be. And so I don't think they're going to trade him. I think they're getting rid of the guys they have to get rid of. And again, they still like PK Subban for what he does for the team around the community. There's other reasons to keep.
They also, I mean, the thing about PK that should be really obvious by now, because we've seen him in a lot of different scenarios, is PK is very, very much a guy who needs to be coached. Like he needs to have a strong coach who's going to ride him all the time, and he actually likes it. Like he wants to be pushed like that. Mm-hmm. When he's not pushed like that, I mean, it's not like he's a baby. He's okay being pushed like that. But obviously in Nashville, you saw it. Laviolette's going to ride him, make him go hard. Back, in Montreal, various coaches made him go hard. You have to do that for him. And if you don't do that for him, like in New Jersey, things are way too laid back for him. The situation, and they need that. That's why when I saw Pete DeBoer's fired, I'm like, that's the guy you bring back, because he's that kind of coach, and he will make your players that are around there accountable.
Ironically, DeBoer let it be known on the weekend that he'd be open to returning this year, unlike Babcock, where Babcock said he's probably taking the year off. That DeBoer. So I mean, in that instance, it may be New Jersey, maybe Dallas. I mean, there's an opportunity there. I don't know if they're going to stick with the former Ottawa coach, Rick Bowness as their head coach. I mean, it would seem but there's possibilities out there for DeBoer. We don't have to spend a lot of time on Kovalchuk other than the fact that they paid him the bonus on the weekend, and immediately I'm assuming that this was negotiated, that they were going to terminate the contract, but that he wants to stay in the NHL. Now, he loses $4.25 million on the last year of the deal. He loses like $400,000 for the rest of this year. That's nothing. So I don't think it's impossible that he signs a 1-year deal for the league minimum to go someplace where he can sell his wares, where he can play on a good team, where he can be a complimentary piece, and then try to find another contract next year.
I think a team's going to have to be awfully desperate, Mike, because he is at this point, the poster child for like diva, wanting to get his own way, or he's going to leave. And I still don't understand why Rob Blake ever made this signing. It made no sense from the beginning.
It made no sense.
And he was not the only one. There was 3 or 4 teams that were in on him.
I know, and the weird part is
not nearly as big as he was.
They won't have to pay him cash, but they get the cap hit, and that's the worst part of it. That cap hit is gonna hurt them. And I don't see it
as much though, Russ, because they're really not a great team right now. They're not going to be loading up next year with big free agents. I mean, I think that they are in a rebuild. I think that the cap
$6 million, Zach. They can
but I mean,
it's better than paying that money out. I mean, paying $6 million.
It's addition by subtraction. But the thing is that they're so weighed down with these long-term deals on guys like Carter and Dustin Brown and Alec Martinez has only got another year left. They have great players still in Kopitar and Doughty, but they're so weighed down, and Quick is another one. They're so weighed down by these long-term deals that they really can't dig themselves out within a year. So the 6.25 that cap hit that they're going to take on Kovalchuk is, it's just one of many problems.
I got to tell you this about Quick. He may just weather the storm for their little bit of a rebuild, because some of the saves he made over the weekend were unbelievable.
Yeah,
if this goalie market remains the crap that it is as far as interest, because teams don't want to give you anything, then he's going to end up staying.
Or maybe he's attractive to a team that's looking, like San Jose is looking for a goalie. Colorado might be looking for a goalie. There are 3 or 4 teams that you could label as borderline contenders that could.
These teams were all looking for goalies. These same teams that we were talking about have all been looking for goalies for a couple of years now, and none of them want to seem to give up the assets that are necessary. So
if you're the LA Kings, would you do Martin Jones for Jonathan Quick?
No. Why am I doing that?
Well, I mean, you had Martin Jones before. You think you maybe
No.
thought he was a good goalie back then. You've already you traded him.
You traded him away pretty quickly. I mean, here's the thing that I'm getting back on Kovalchuk. I know, this is all I really want to say about it, but I have a feeling like Kovalchuk is a very proud guy. He doesn't take that onto the ice as much as he should, but he's got a big ego and a big perspective on himself. We call him a diva, whatever you want to call him. He is, I don't think, going to accept this whole thing that's going on in LA unless he kind of has an idea that another team's interested in him.
Right.
And I think that I think he does. I think he will land somewhere. I think that team will pay like nothing for him. Like they'll pay.
And
are they going to get nothing too in return?
I'll give you two possible teams.
Well, I know the one. Let me throw the one out there first, because it would be the Islanders. And the bottom line is here, Lou loves him.
Yeah.
And with all that went on, still Lou's funny because he's a different kind of bird. He's not, but he loves highly skilled players, like really skilled players, and he puts them in a little bit of a different world than others.
That makes a ton of sense. So
the other thing about that scenario is you have a coach there in Barry Trotz who managed to teach another famous Russian to play defense and play all around.
Yeah, but that's a different story. I'm telling you, if he goes into that team and isn't doing well at the very beginning, those fans will turn on him quickly.
Well, okay, yeah. Another team that you've long talked about, Ak, in terms of in a city that is accepting of sort of the wild child type of player is Montreal, and they need scoring, especially on the wing, but they could use centers too. But I think that
I don't think Bergevin will do it.
The other one who showed a lot of interest in him when he was a free agent, but luckily for them, they didn't win the sweepstakes, was Boston. And Boston, they added Nash a couple years ago. They've added guys like Yager in the past as that complimentary winger on the second or third line. I could see them going out. It costs them nothing. You sign him for a year, and if he doesn't work out, then you bury him. So,
yeah, I think that's the thing. The only thing that Kovalchuk wants is to not look like this, so he'll play anywhere where he thinks he can not look like this. Like he wants to go somewhere where he can play. And
right, third line.
TSL in the chat room says brought something real quick I want to say because very quick that Lou doesn't love him. Ownership at the time really pushed for that crazy signing in New Jersey, and you're right.
I agree with that.
TSL is right. But what you don't realize is that we've got good friends in that organization like that, and that over time Lou and Kovalchuk became very tight. And they actually did develop a good.
No, I agree. I think there was a mutual respect.
And in the end, at the very end of it, Lou was like, "Yeah, you should go back to where you're going to be happy in Russia."
If you're going to tell me that Kovalchuk's the same as this one, I'm going to argue with you because if you look at the numbers ever since Jersey, it's been a massive dip.
Yeah. No, of course. I mean, this is not nearly that player. I mean, that was a superstar player.
And that's my point with the Islander fans. They're going to look at this and say, "Okay, we'll give him a chance." And if he's not a good version of Kovalchuk, they're going to get mad at Lou because they know this was the chance to get somebody because they need somebody and it didn't happen. And they're going to think, they're going to look at it as a wasted chance because the fans have been asking Lou to pick up players all year and nothing has happened, right? Because they're playing well. I'm on the side of the fans on this one because I agree with them. They're going to need something. And
if he goes out instead of trading for Hall and probably having to trade somebody like Noah Dobson in the deal, which they won't do, if they can get Kovalchuk for nothing for $700,000 and he produces anything, then that's something that I'm sure the fans would probably be happy for.
Yeah, it's just it's another skilled player, and I don't think and Barry Trotz might hate him. That's true. You look in there, but Barry Trotz, above all else, is actually like a guy who likes challenges. He would see it as a challenge. He's not going to hate him right off the bat. He's going to come in there. He's going to give him a chance. He's going to say, okay, well, look at remember what I did with Ovechkin. I'm going to help you and get back your pride and everything you have. And he'll play that really well. That's the kind of stuff that Barry Trotz does.
Now, should we talk about the Flyers? And
yeah, we need to talk about Lindblom.
Yeah, we definitely need to.
Which is just a very sad story. It happened on Friday night. We all came down, so we haven't been able together to talk about that since. It's just, it's such a good kid, such a horrible story. He's out for the year. Hopefully he can get, hopefully, that's the least that people care about right now.
Yeah, I mean,
is helping things out.
there's not a lot to say other than it's really sad and regrettable. I mean, he's a young kid. He's actually having the best year of his career
By far, and he's
and just as he's doing that, this happens, and it's really sad. Now, from what I've heard, and I'm not really that educated on cancer, other than having it and it happened in the family. But this is a cancer that is treatable.
Yeah,
that there has been some success rate on. So if that is the case, I mean, hopefully.
Well, the interesting thing about this cancer is that it's not what my son has. My son does not have cancer, but this was what my son was diagnosed as having the first time. But went right, and so I learned a lot about it at the time because they thought he had this. And then when they went in and did a biopsy, they realized it was something completely different. But that was the initial result, and it's possible that I don't know. I guess they already did the biopsy with Lindblom and all that stuff, but you just don't. The first thing that came to my head was like, oh man, maybe they made the same mistake. Like maybe it's possible because
but they took their time with this.
It looked the same. Like in every MRI you can get, it looks exactly the same. But you have to actually get in there and take out the tumor, and you realize like that with bone cancer, it can be like a cancer, or it can be just an extra bone growth that happens, which is kind of what my son had, which is not treatable but not deadly.
So I do want to say this though. So when I first heard it, I was in shock like everybody else. Having interviewed him a lot, covered him a lot before his career started with the Flyers, Dev Camp, all those things. He really is a great kid and always smiling, always very positive. I don't know what day it was. One of the mornings on Twitter, I saw Amy Irvin had a tweet, and she's a photographer, and she was saying, hey, let's, do something for this. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to do something because I felt helpless. So he come up with something, and then I said, hey, let's maybe make some wristbands with the Oscar Strong hashtag, because she had already started to use that. Yeah. And so we're going to have him in hopefully tomorrow.
It's great.
For the game. And so she's going to post it, and then I'll retweet it where we're going to meet up. I mean, I'll save you on it.
Yeah.
I don't know how fast they're going to go. It's not like we have like deep pockets. So we made a certain amount, and we're going to give them out some location, either Xfinity or by one of the parking lots.
Well, do me a favor, like if you guys sell out of them, I'll order some more for you guys. We'll become part of it in a second. Like let's
if we sell out, we'll tell you, and then we'll make some more.
Give me the place to order, and I'll do it right away.
I just want to. I felt like it's better than like a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Because you can't wear that T-shirt every day, or if you do, somebody's going to look at you funny.
Yeah.
But you could at least wear that bracelet every day and think about the guy and pull for him that way, and just let that energy go. So that was the idea between the two of us doing that. And it was Sunday morning. We spent like a long time texting each other back on Sunday, trying to figure out the best way. And she found a really good company to do it with faster shipping that I could find. So that was great. So
awesome.
Well, okay. Switching to the Flyers on the ice, because they've really struggled lately, and Lindblom, his absence is just another in a series. Now Farabee is likely going to get suspended for the year.
Yeah, he'll definitely get suspended.
I mean, Russ, what is? I mean, there is a lot of talent there, but what is the major malfunction right now with the Flyers?
All right, so I'll talk about a few things here. They're not going to be popular. I'm never the most popular guy in the Flyers press box because I tell it like it is. What I see is what I tell.
Right.
Joel Farabee's frustrated.
Yeah.
He's not scoring at the rate that Joel Farabee normally scores at. He's doing whatever he can to survive in the NHL, but that isn't using his best attributes, and that's why he should have been in Lehigh all this time.
I completely agree with you.
Scoring a lot of goals, having success, helping that team, and now he's stuck in a spot where all of a sudden, with all these injuries, people are looking at him to produce. He's 19 years old, and so he took a shot at a player because I believe he was frustrated because that game was the worst road game I've seen the Flyers play in a long time. So a few things here. So you could blame the injuries if you like, but I did point out online and on Twitter that the Penguins have had similar injuries, and the Penguins have 3 times the cap space the Flyers do right now. So the cap mismanagement to sign these veterans, to bring them in, to hopefully have a playoff year is now really costing them. But we've also brought up the fact that the final block in that really hurt it was the Chris Stewart signing, because that gave them that they lost all cap flexibility from that point on. Because if they didn't, right now, Sven Barshy getting waived as an example, they probably could have afforded Sven Barshy.
Yeah.
But they can't. They have $470,000 in cap space.
Yeah, that's nuts. I mean, it really is.
So that's killing them. So when you look at this team, and I told Mike this offline, it is going to be near impossible for them to make the playoffs. I expect them to drop in the standings because they don't have the forwards and their defense doesn't have the foot speed to make up the difference. You saw everybody wanted to, kill me online when I said, look at Colorado, look how slow they look. And they're like, Colorado's the fastest team. And I'm like, okay, well, how about the last game? This last game, they looked really slow at the beginning and gave up some very quick goals.
Yeah.
And, they just don't. And it's all on the veterans. I'm sorry. This is all on the veterans.
Yeah.
JVR is going to produce a little bit. Voracek's doing nothing. Giroux's doing what he can, but when you have him on the center, you're losing those points that you could have had for him on the wing. And I did say it's going to be hard to make up those points. I get it. When Konecny comes back, they'll look better. And when Raffl comes back, they'll look better. But they're still deficient in other things. And if they didn't have Stewart signed, they could have at least been maneuvering a little bit more right now where they can't. And I got to tell you, and Eck will probably back this up, at the deadline, it will be very hard for them to make deals because it's going to be NBA-type deals. They're going to have to match up salaries, and that's not easy to do.
Yeah, no, they're not. They're not. I mean, I don't even know if they're on the rumor chart with anybody right now for me. I mean, I haven't heard anything involving the Flyers. Like they completely, if they are, it's probably a guess, from my point, because I really have not heard the legitimate Flyers rumor.
Well, you talk about one of the most immovable contracts in the league right now. Voracek at $8.25 for 4 more years is amongst them.
Yep.
Yeah, no, Voracek's contract is absolutely insane. There's no question about it.
Now, let me just touch on this quick because there's a lot of chat in the
sure
in the chat room about the Leafs. They went 3-1 on their Western Canada road swing. They beat Edmonton convincingly 4-1 on Saturday. I tell you right now, the Edmonton Oilers are not making the playoffs if Mikko Koskinen is their number 1 goalie. He's a 6'7" sieve. Now this is the problem with Edmonton. McDavid and Draisaitl were virtual non-factors in that game. When they have literally no chance to win the game. The Leafs did a decent job, but of course they had to rely on Frederik Andersen again to stone Edmonton blind. But when that's how good McDavid and Draisaitl are. They can carry a team by themselves, and when they're
2 of the best 10 players in the league easily.
Right, but the problem is the problem is in half the games when they can't do that, there's nobody else. There's Nugent Hopkins is not playing very well. James Neal, he's here or there. They have a couple of decent defensemen. Mike Smith right now, his save percentage in the last 4 games is under .800. So, that means they have to rely more on Koskinen, and Koskinen was responsible for at least 2 of the 3 goals that he was in the net for.
I said it was going to be a slow bleed. It's a slow bleed. That's exactly what's been going on. For every win, they've been piling up 3 or 4 losses, and they're steadily dropping in the standings. It's just they're not dropping like a rock because of the way this league is and the way teams can get points.
And the one thing about Toronto, it's like, okay, they're 7-4 under Keefe. One thing that is very noticeable is that the players that Keefe had with the Marlies, he's giving more of an opportunity to a couple guys like Justin Hall, who was a healthy scratch for over 70 games under Babcock, has played in the top 4 under Keefe, and he's played really well.
And we talked about him, remember, a couple of weeks ago when I saw him here, and I said, you know what? He's playing really well.
Yeah, and he's a right-hand shot. So, and the other one is Pierre Engvall, who I've liked for a couple years playing with the Marlies. He's moved up to the 3rd line. He set up 2 of the goals on Saturday. He's a big, rangy, fast kid. And he helps them. But
can they afford to keep him up there?
Well,
right?
and that's the thing. There is another shoe waiting to drop with this team. And this is the odd thing is that Kasperi Kapanen twice this year has been moved into the top 6, and both instances he's been moved up on the left side. He cannot play the left wing. He is not a left winger. He's a right winger. He's played his worst hockey of the year playing on his off wing. When he's played on the right side, he's played great. So they're trying to get him in the top 6, but they can't get him in the top 6 when Nylander and Marner are both healthy and they keep Nylander attached to Matthews and Marner attached to Tavares. So I don't know if that means they're going to trade Kapanen. I don't think so. I think they like him, but they want him to fit somewhere in that top 6, and he just doesn't on the left side. So that's a dilemma that Dubas may have to handle from this point until the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, just on Edmonton, I mean, obviously they're not playing with the level they were in the beginning of the year.
5 of the last 6 they've lost. Yeah.
Yeah, and then this is, and every team goes through this. Every team in the NHL goes through these slumps. It's not a matter of how they're playing right now. If they can get out of it or not is the question. So to me, like, they gave themselves at least some runway to run with. In the beginning of the year, they put themselves. They're still in a playoff spot right now. They're not that many points out of first place. They are still, but they're not that many points in the playoffs either. I mean, that thing is tightened up in general in the West, and and they could go either way. I definitely would not call Koskinen a sieve at all. I think he's a really good goalie. I think that, he's going to have bad games. And when the team plays bad in front of him, it's not going to help him. They are completely dependent on Connor McDavid and Draisaitl. That's a given. But if you're going to be completely dependent on 2 players, it's not bad to have 2 of the best players in the league to be dependent on, because more than not, that they're going to be good. I mean, so as long as they're half decent, Edmonton Oilers are still a playoff team.
Well, my point is that good teams are dependent on 5 or 6 players, not 2.
They're not half decent. I mean, if we look at it, like you were saying, they have 2 players in the top 10. How many players do they have in the top 25 to 30? Probably still the same 2.
Oh yeah, no, just definitely.
And that's the problem.
No, and there's no question about it. I mean, the points that they're putting up in this beginning of the season, I mean, 250. We're on pace for 250-point years. I mean, that is crazy. There's no two ways about it. That's not going to continue, and this is bound to happen. They're going to see a correction like this, especially this time of year. Like usually between Thanksgiving and New Year's is when teams, will slump. I mean, it's hard until you kick back in after the All-Star break to realize the playoffs are coming. These are the real dull days of everything.
And they've benefited from the fact that 2 teams that were expected, or actually 3 teams that were expected to be in contention for the Pacific Division title, Calgary, San Jose, and Vegas, all had bad first quarters. And I know Vegas is close to them now. I know Calgary is close to them now. San Jose still hasn't pulled out of it, and maybe they won't because maybe the problems there are just too much. But Edmonton had that benefit of those teams starting out slow and them starting out fast, but now they're really within a few points of each other. And now I don't know. Like I said, I'm confident in my prediction that they're missing the playoffs. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm still
confident in my prediction. That they're
I know that's the good thing about it. It's like,
we'll see what happens. I mean, I think the odds would definitely be in your favor. More people had him, not many people had him finishing in first place. So let's throw it out there.
What's this from Goalie FP here?
What was that?
What's this from Goalie FP?
I hit the wrong thing. Damn it! I mean, sorry. I apologize.
I got it.
Yeah. I sorry. I hit that. I was looking at something and hit it.
Now there's, just a couple things quickly here. Zach Bogosian, we talked about it late last week. Requested a trade from the Sabres. This was just pure speculation on my part because of the fact that Galchenyuk is being shopped by Pittsburgh. He's not fitting there. Pittsburgh needs defensive help. The salaries are pretty equal, and that deal would make sense for both teams. I don't know who in their right mind is taking Zach Bogosian at $5.1 million, especially with his injury history.
He'll have to retain some. There's no doubt.
Yeah, but the thing is that the Sabres are not in a position to retain salary because they're up against the cap right now.
Yeah, they're going to have to give a pick to trade him away. I think whatever they think the market is on him, I think they're going to find out it's not that good.
Yeah. He's a right-handed defenseman. He's still,
29, Mike.
What's that?
He's 29. I'm sure we're going to start hearing that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like Taylor Hall is 28.
No, but there's
not comparing the two, but I know. Honestly, it's like I've been a harsh critic of Bogosian for the last few years since he's in Buffalo, and it's been deserved because he's never healthy. And when he is healthy, he doesn't play like a former 3rd overall pick or an all-star or anything like that. It's like I think there'll be a team next summer that'll be willing to take a flyer on him on a 1-year deal, sure. The days of him making mega millions in the NHL are over with because he's going to be on the ice to be able to earn that.
Let's face it. I mean, Winnipeg rushed him. He with all the hype that he brought in that draft, 3rd overall, he was never going to be the player they thought he was going to be. They brought him up too young. He's not produced even close to the offense that anybody had envisioned for him. Was a pretty good defender, though, for a while when he didn't have to be the kind of skater you need to be now. And now, he's like 2 years ahead of what Mark Stahl is right now for the Rangers. Mark Stahl right now for the Rangers, he's pretty much finished.
Yeah, I mean, Bogosian is more mobile, which isn't saying a lot. But
because Stahl is immobile now, but he never used to be. This is what happens to guys that have played a lot of heavy minutes early in their careers. We've seen it at defense. That is a recipe for a shortened career.
Now, Toronto Greenhouse in the chat says, Vancouver would take Bogosian for Louis Eriksson. Well, Louis Eriksson's got another 3 years left in a contract.
He wouldn't do that.
Right. But this is the thing. The only place the Sabres would take on more term in a deal for Bogosian would be a center. But I don't think that Jason Botterill is trading Bogosian for Kyle Turris.
Right.
No.
If there's a center out there with a couple years left in their contract, now they sent Casey Middlestat back to down to the AHL.
They should put Torres on an Uber right now if that was possible.
But they sent Middlestat down to the AHL, which I think was overdue by about a month because they were healthy scratching him, and there's nothing gained by healthy scratching a 20-year-old player.
No.
So they sort of mismanaged that a bit, and I hope, because I think he's got a lot of talent. I hope he sort of gathers himself in the AHL, gets some confidence, and comes back. But they really don't have a number. They're playing Johan Larsson and Evan Rodriguez as their number 2 center. And as much as Buffalo is having this renaissance with Eichel playing at a Hart Trophy-like level, he can't keep that up. He's scoring a couple goals a game. The hard realities of
the NHL is when you draft top guys, they're not always ready. And sometimes they're not ready for 2 or 3 years. And Buffalo's going through this now because they have some young talent, but it wasn't all ready. So now they're not prepared to fill the gaps. And because of those other bad contracts that they have, next year they might be able to fill some of those gaps.
Here's a complete non sequitur. Bada Bing says we must never forget that Russ missed U2 perform at Live Aid because he went to the bathroom.
There you go.
I stand by my selection that day. I stand by it now. Thank you.
There you go. I guess it's all the time we have for today, guys. We appreciate you guys jumping on board here. Everybody watching us in the chat room, and please continue to spread the word about the podcast. And just another little favor if you could, because it helps a lot. If you subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, on the Apple Podcast app, if you could go in there and write a quick review saying how much you love us, that would help, because apparently that is one of the best ways to get new listeners.
Yes.
And, we would love that. So just go on iTunes, review, write a little review, and post it on there. Just take a couple seconds, mean the world to us. And so if you like watching us every day, please take the time to do that. Remember, without the buzz, folks, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.